In this episode, we're going to get comfortable with a topic that feels like science fiction until it shows up in your real life: deepfakes. If you have ever watched a video online and felt a tiny moment of doubt about whether it was real, you have already brushed up against the problem. Deepfakes matter in cybersecurity because they take something humans are naturally good at, recognizing familiar faces and voices, and they quietly turn that strength into a weakness. For brand new learners, the goal is not to become a movie-quality forensic analyst, but to understand what deepfakes are, why they work so well on people, and what practical verification habits reduce the risk. We also want to connect deepfakes to impersonation, because most damage happens when a fake identity triggers a real decision, like sending money, sharing data, or granting access. By the end, you should have a clear mental model of the risk and a set of countermeasures that are less about fancy technology and more about careful confirmation. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at Cyber.Author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A deepfake is synthetic media created or heavily altered by AI to make something look, sound, or seem real when it is not. The word deepfake became popular because modern AI models can learn patterns from many examples, like how a person's face moves when they talk or how their voice sounds when they say different words, and then generate new content that matches those patterns. That means an attacker does not need to be a skilled video editor to create a convincing fake, and they do not need to have recorded a person saying the exact sentence they want. They can create a fake video call, a fake voice message, or a fake, urgent clip that appears to show a leader giving instructions. This is different from older tricks like copying a photo and pasting it into a fake profile, because deepfakes can simulate movement, emotion, and timing, which our brains often treat as proof. A deepfake does not have to be perfect to be dangerous, because the goal is usually to push someone into acting fast, not to survive a long forensic review. To understand why deepfakes are such a strong impersonation tool, it helps to notice how humans decide what to trust. Most people do not verify identity in a formal way during everyday communication, because that would be exhausting and slow. Instead, we use shortcuts like recognizing a voice, seeing a familiar face, noticing a known name, or feeling that a message sounds like someone we know. Those shortcuts are usually good enough, which is why we rely on them. But deepfakes are designed to attack exactly those shortcuts. When a person hears a familiar voice, their brain fills in the gaps and assumes the rest is real, even if the audio is a little strange. When someone sees a face moving naturally, they assume a live human is present, even though the movement might be generated. Impersonation risk rises when a deepfake is combined with urgency, authority, or emotional pressure, because stress reduces careful thinking and pushes people toward quick compliance. It also helps to separate deepfake quality from deepfake effectiveness, because beginners often think only perfect fakes are dangerous. In reality, many successful attacks use low or medium quality fakes, because the environment is already noisy. A phone call might cut out, a video call might freeze, and a voice message might sound distorted, and people accept those issues as normal. Attackers can hide imperfections inside those normal glitches, and they can also control the situation by asking for a simple action that does not require a long conversation. A deepfake voice might be used to say a short instruction, like approving a payment or resetting an account, and then the attacker ends the call before questions start. Even a single sentence can be enough if it triggers a process that was already set up to trust a leader's voice or a familiar identity. The lesson is that we should not treat deepfakes as rare, flawless masterpieces, but as practical tools that can work under everyday conditions. Deepfakes show up in a few common forms, and each one has its own risk pattern. One form is voice cloning, where an attacker generates audio that sounds like a target, such as a manager, a family member, or a customer. Another form is face swapping or video synthesis, where a person on a video call appears to be someone else, or a recorded video looks like the target is speaking. A third form is content manipulation, where real media is altered in a way that changes meaning, like adding words to a statement or cutting and rearranging segments to create a new story. There are also hybrid attacks, where an attacker uses a fake profile picture and a deepfake voice, or uses AI-generated text to mimic writing style, while also using synthetic audio for impact. For defenders, the key is to recognize that deepfakes are not only about fake celebrity videos. They are tools for fraud, account takeover, data theft, and manipulation of trust. Impersonation risk becomes clearer when you think about what attackers want to achieve. Sometimes the goal is direct financial theft, like tricking someone into sending money or buying gift cards. Sometimes the goal is access, like persuading a help desk to reset a password, bypass a security check, or enroll a new device. Sometimes the goal is information, like obtaining employee data, customer records, or internal plans that can be used for later attacks. Deepfakes can also be used for reputation harm, such as creating fake statements that damage trust in a person or an organization. What connects all these outcomes is that the attacker is not trying to win an argument about reality. They are trying to trigger a decision. That is why verification countermeasures focus on decision points, not on trying to become perfect at spotting fakes by eye or ear alone. A common misconception is that you can always detect a deep fake by looking for obvious visual errors, like strange eyes, odd mouth movement, or unnatural lighting. Those clues can exist, but relying on them is risky because they change over time and because many communication channels hide details. A low-resolution camera, a compressed video, or a noisy phone line removes the very details you would need to inspect. Another misconception is that you can trust your gut if something feels off, because attackers know how to craft messages that feel familiar and urgent, and humans can be wrong even when they are confident. A third misconception is that technology alone will solve the problem, like using a detector that flags deepfakes automatically. Detection tools can help, but attackers adapt, and the safest approach is to combine technical controls with verification habits that do not depend on perfect detection. So what does verification mean in this context, and why is it so powerful? Verification is the act of confirming identity or intent using an independent method that the attacker is less likely to control. Independence is the key word, because if the attacker controls the same channel, they can keep the illusion going. For example, if you receive a voice call that claims to be your manager, verification might mean ending the call and calling your manager back using a known number from a trusted directory. If you receive a video message requesting sensitive information, verification might mean sending a separate message through a different channel, like an approved messaging system, and asking a question that only the real person would understand in context. Verification is strongest when it is built into normal habits, because people are most vulnerable when verification feels awkward or optional. When verification is normal, it becomes harder for an attacker to create urgency that overrides it. One of the most practical countermeasures is a simple rule: treat unusual requests as suspicious, even if the face or voice looks familiar. Unusual can mean a request that breaks normal process, like asking to bypass approvals, send data to a personal email, or make a payment outside a routine system. Unusual can also mean timing, like an urgent instruction late at night, or a request that arrives during a busy moment when you are likely to rush. The point is not that every unusual request is malicious, but that unusual requests deserve extra verification. Attackers love to combine a believable identity with a process exception, because the exception is where controls are weakest. If you train yourself to slow down at exceptions, you remove the attacker's advantage. This is also where good organizational habits matter, because if teams normalize bypassing controls, deepfakes simply make that bad habit more dangerous. Another strong countermeasure is establishing shared verification patterns that are simple and consistent. For example, a team can agree that payment approvals never happen through a voice call alone, or that account resets require confirmation through a known workflow rather than a casual request. People sometimes resist these rules because they feel inconvenient, but convenience is exactly what attackers exploit. A useful way to think about it is that deepfakes do not create new human weaknesses. They make old weaknesses faster and cheaper to exploit. Verification patterns are like seatbelts. Most of the time they feel unnecessary, but when the rare event happens, you want them already in place. When verification patterns are clear, the defender does not have to invent a response under pressure, and the attacker cannot easily steer the target into improvisation. It is also important to understand how organizations can reduce deepfake impact with identity and access controls that do not rely on recognizing a person. This is where multi-factor authentication, MFA, matters because it requires more than a voice, a face, or a password to prove identity. Even if an attacker convincingly impersonates someone, they still need the additional factor to access systems, and that blocks many attacks. Another related concept is least privilege, which means people only have the access they truly need, so a single trick person cannot open every door. Approval workflows can also reduce damage because they make it harder for a single message, even a convincing one, to trigger high-impact action. None of these controls are perfect, but they change the attacker's math by adding steps and friction, and deepfakes are most effective when they can cause immediate action. For brand new learners, a helpful way to connect this to real behavior is to picture a decision ladder, where each rung is a point where you can pause and verify. The first rung is recognizing that identity signals can be faked, which shifts you from automatic trust to cautious trust. The next rung is checking the request, asking whether it matches normal process and normal urgency. The next rung is switching channels, because verification should not happen inside the same channel that might be compromised. The next rung is confirming through a trusted source, like a directory, a known contact method, or a formal workflow. The final rung is documenting and reporting, because even if you stop the attack, the organization needs to know it happened so others are protected. When you think this way, deepfake defense becomes less mysterious and more like good security hygiene applied to communication. Deepfakes also create a challenge for reputation and truth, which matters even if no money is stolen and no account is hacked. A fake video can spread quickly and shape opinions before anyone verifies it, and the damage can be emotional, social, or professional. In an organizational context, a fake clip can cause confusion, disrupt operations, or create distrust in leadership. One countermeasure here is having clear communication channels for official messages, so people know where to look for real updates. Another countermeasure is slowing the impulse to share, because sharing is a form of amplification and attackers often rely on people spreading content without checking. A useful mindset is to treat surprising media as unverified until confirmed by multiple independent sources, especially if it triggers strong emotion. This is not about cynicism. It is about protecting yourself and others from manipulation. As we close, the big idea to carry forward is that deepfakes raise impersonation risk by attacking human trust signals, but they do not remove our ability to defend ourselves. The strongest defense is not a magic detector, but a combination of calm verification habits, clear process rules, and access controls that do not depend on faces or voices being real. When a request is unusual, urgent, or high impact, the safest move is to verify through an independent channel and to follow established approval paths, even if the person sounds or looks familiar. If you remember that attackers want decisions more than they want perfect realism, you will focus your attention on the moments that matter most. Deepfakes will keep improving, but the core countermeasures remain stable because they are based on reducing single points of trust and forcing independent confirmation. With that mindset, you can treat deepfakes as a serious risk without feeling helpless, because you have a practical way to slow them down and stop them.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.